This is a National Restaurant Association research and media report. If you've never been on the National Restaurant Association website, I highly recommend it. Last week, Chris and I were talking about this idea that the NRA had put out a report that if restaurants hadn't increased their prices by at least 30% since 2019, they would not be maintaining a 5% profit margin. I've seen that used in so many different articles this week. And it's simply because they are the source of truth for restaurant news and restaurant dynamics. And it is something that I think is super important to be aware of. So if you've never been on National Restaurant Association's website, please do that. And I really look into the research and media section, specifically the economic indicators. If you're a restaurant owner, if you manage restaurants, or if you're just someone who's interested in where the food industry is heading in the restaurant sector, that's the place to go. But they have a post that they put up May 21st, 2025 that claims restaurants projected to add 490,000 seasonal jobs this summer. An uptick in the restaurant industry's prime labor pool will likely support hiring for the summer season. And let me get into why. So summer is the busiest season for restaurants in many parts of the country. A stronger business leads to additional employment opportunities at all levels of a restaurant operation. These summer jobs are typically filled by a wide variety of individuals: teenagers, college students, teachers, even retirees who want to pick up a few shifts at the 19th hole of their local golf course. So restaurants are expected to add, according to the National Restaurant Association, 490,000 seasonal jobs this summer. And according to the National Restaurant Association's 27th annual Eating and Drinking Place Summer Employment Forecast. So this would be a jump from last summer when 459,000 seasonal jobs were added. And this stronger hiring is largely because teens and young adults, that's the cohort most likely to work seasonal jobs, are returning to the labor force in numbers not seen in years. So at the same time, restaurant operators remain uncertain about business conditions in the months ahead, which may curtail their willingness to expand payrolls in a challenging environment. As a result, summer hiring expected to remain below 500,000 for the second consecutive year. They have a graph here where in 2015, 2016, and 2017, hiring in the summer for restaurants was above 500,000 for jobs added at eating and drinking places. And in 2018, 2019, it started to dip. And then 2020 to 2022, there was no data. But then 2023, it stormed back, 524,000 jobs added. And then last year, it was 459. And then again, an uptick this year to 490,000. So in their report, they project that northeastern states will see the strongest summer job growth. So this is due to Maine seeing their employment increasing at a projected 32%, Alaska 22%, Delaware at 17%, Rhode Island at 17%, and then New Jersey at 12%, and Massachusetts at 12% as well. And this is for employment increased projections. And the states projected to add the most eating and drinking place jobs during the season are New York, California, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Texas, Illinois, Michigan, and Ohio. And you will see on the flip side, states like Florida, Arizona, and Louisiana, they are to register declines in eating and drinking place employment during this 2025 summer season, as obviously other places actually have summer, whereas Florida's always warm, so they're not as strongly impacted by this type of hiring. So what does this all mean? I think that the most interesting part of this report is this section where it says the prime labor pool is getting deeper. So as the 2025 summer season approached, the restaurant industry's prime labor pool was at its highest level in several years. More than 6.2 million 16 to 19-year-olds were in the labor force in April. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, this was 900,000 people higher than the comparable pre-pandemic level in April of 2019 and represented the highest April reading since 2008, which was 6.5 million. That number will rise well above 7 million during the peak summer months when more students are available, but the early workforce arrival of many teens likely helped some restaurants get a jump on their summer hiring. The recent upward trend of teens in the workforce is a positive sign for restaurants. This cohort makes up 20% of the industry workforce. Overall, restaurants are the economy's largest employer of teenagers, providing job opportunities for 1.9 million 16 to 19-year-olds, or 33% of all working teens. They are also an important component of the restaurant workforce with 20 to 24-year-olds, accounting for 21% of all employees. Restaurants have started ramping up their summer hiring in April, and more of them to choose from than they had in decades. Quite stark numbers, and it just goes to show you the fact that people entering the restaurant industry enter really young. And when it comes to the state of our industry, the career opportunities, what's available to them, how they're treated, what the dynamics of a restaurant are, all these things are highly critical because, as you just saw, 1/3 of all teen employment is in restaurants. So as important as ever, talking to people about restaurants, the conditions, the pay, what's going on in this industry, it's all critical and crucial because The next generations, many of their first jobs will be in a restaurant or hospitality setting, and they should be set up to be starting on the right foot. And that means better restaurant jobs, healthier restaurant jobs, and jobs that are fair and equitable to them. So some notes to finalize this with the National Restaurant Association. Some notes that they share about this forecast is that eating and drinking places are the primary component of the restaurant and food service industry, which the National Restaurant Industry defines, that which encompasses all meals and snacks prepared away from home. And then another key point is summer employment is defined between June, July, and August. And generally, the U.S. restaurant industry begins to ramp up its summer seasonal hiring in April, and it peaks in June, July, and August. So that being said, I think it's very interesting. And I think it's just a call to the fact that, I think, and I've had this in my mind, when COVID hit, this idea that a lot of people are leaving the restaurant industry, a lot of people are going elsewhere for work. That may be true in a sense, but young people, young adults, teens, they're going to restaurants because it still is one of the most accessible and easy ways to start making an income, whether it's pre-college or post-college. So this idea of restaurant work going away isn't true. I do think it is true that the more experienced and skilled laborers, I don't even say skilled, but people who have more experience, in their 30s or 40s may be leaving. And I would love to, maybe that's the next topic we break down or do a deep dive on. Sorry if I'm sniffling. My allergies are at an all-time worst right now. But it is important to get conditions right for people entering the restaurant industry so that they can expand upon that career, or if they're only working there for other purposes, that they have a good experience and that they feel like it is an industry at least worth fighting for. Because as these numbers grow, if this is an industry that is intolerant, if it's an industry that is abusive, if this is an industry that is not good to work in, we will see negative effects. I mean, we've already seen that during COVID, the mass exodus, the lockdowns, everything in between. I feel like there's a tipping point for restaurants right now where costs are up, raising menu prices is extremely difficult. Economic indicators are worrisome. Getting your employment right, I think, is key in the next few years to whether your business will succeed or fail, because you don't want to take on the extremely high cost of increased turnover, and you don't want to take on the cost of training people if you have solid people from the beginning. So that's my thoughts on this new National Restaurant Association report.